Have you ever lain down in bed after a long day, but instead of resting, your mind grows louder than ever? All day you run after work messages and social media, but when night falls, when the lights go out, you suddenly feel a strange emptiness waiting for you. You close your eyes, yet unfinished conversations replay a single sentence that bothered you, lingers, or even just a glance that won't leave your mind. You thought sleep would heal you. But the truth is, if you sleep with chaos in your head, you'll wake up with that same chaos in the morning. What's more frightening is that many people get so used to this state that they start thinking maybe this is just life. Maybe everyone feels this way. But does it really have to be like that? Ask yourself this: why can you spend the whole day responding to others, but not 5 minutes listening to yourself? Why is it so easy to scroll endlessly on social media, but so hard to sit in silence for a short while? And if you don't dare to face yourself at night, how will you ever have the strength to face the world in the day I used to live that way? Long nights with the blue glow of my phone were my escape from silence. I thought I was searching for comfort, but I was abandoning myself. Each morning I woke up feeling like I had lost something important, like a part of me was slowly being worn away until I discovered Stoic philosophy. Epictetus once said, "People are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them." Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Do not let your mind become a puppet of external events." Yet Seneca advised, "Each evening ask yourself, what good have I done today? Where have I gone wrong, and what ways have I improved?" These wise men lived in a world far harsher than ours, yet they still found peace within themselves. That made me realize the problem isn't what happens during the day, it's how we close the day. If you let your mind end in chaos, you'll wake up in turmoil. But if you learn to clear it, you'll sleep in peace and rise with clarity. This video isn't here to lull you with pretty words, it's a journey. In the next hour, you'll dive into Stoic principles blended with modern psychology and real-life stories. Not to turn you into some Stoic superhero, but to give you a tool you can use daily. And here's the key: you don't need complicated rituals. No cold plunges, no endless gratitude lists. What you need right now is simply the courage to face yourself. So put your phone down. Let the worries of the outside world pause for a while. Together we'll begin with the very first step most people skip. Face yourself before sleep. When the day ends, the most dangerous thing isn't unfinished work nor unpaid bills. The real danger is that your mind has never truly closed. You lie down, but your thoughts keep spinning like a tape on repeat, never stopping. People often think of sleep as a reset button. Just sleep and tomorrow will be different. But the truth is, sleep isn't an erase button. It's a copy and paste button. What you take into sleep, you wake up with. If you carry anger, frustration, or guilt into bed, you'll open your eyes in the morning with those same feelings, only now they've sunk deeper, harder to untangle. When was the last time you truly felt peace in your sleep? Not just 8 hours, but closing your eyes easily, waking up light without a weight on your chest. That memory is distant for many because most of us have never learned how to end a day properly. The Romans understood this. Seneca once advised, "Each night before you sleep, ask yourself, what have I done today? What mistakes did I make? What progress have I achieved?" Not to punish yourself, but to let go of what doesn't need to be carried forward. It's a spiritual ritual. No notebook, no ceremony, only honesty with yourself. Picture this. You have had a terrible day. Your boss shut down your most passionate idea before the whole team. Friends were too busy to listen. At home, a careless comment from family cut deep. That night, you climb into bed burning with anger, whispering to yourself, "No one understands me." You'll take that fire into your sleep if you leave it there. And in the morning, it won't have gone out. It will smolder, draining your strength without you even knowing why. But in just 3 minutes, you can change it. Sit down, no phone, no music. Ask, When my boss said that was it really an insult or a disagreement, that small question is the line between emotion and reality. It pulls you out of instinct and back into clarity. Freedom begins in that moment, the moment you dare to face your own reaction. Modern science agrees. Matthew Walker, author of Why We Sleep, wrote, "Sleep is a form of overnight therapy. It soothes emotional wounds and offers us a fresh perspective in the morning." But he also warned, if you go to bed with unresolved emotions, your brain will keep chewing on them through the night, making your sleep shallower, your dreams heavier, and your mornings just as heavy. In other words, the more you run, the less your mind lets you escape. James, a successful attorney in New York, is a clear example. On the outside, he had the kind of career most admire, but every morning he woke up with a weight as if he had lost himself. One night after an exhausting trial, James woke up in panic, heart racing, head spinning. In that moment, he remembered Seneca's words about self-reflection before sleep. James sat up without pen or paper and asked himself, "Today, where did I overreact? What small thing made me weak? What meaningless burden am I still holding?" The first night, nothing felt clear. The second night, his mind felt a little lighter. By the third night, he slept straight through till morning, for the first time in months, not because of meditation apps or pills, but because he stopped running from himself. He chose to face it. That is the first step of Stoicism, reflection, facing yourself. No decoration, no performance, just the courage to sit down and look directly within. You don't have to journal every night if it feels heavy. Just ask 3 questions. What weighed on me? Today, does it really deserve to follow me into sleep? What can I let go of so tomorrow feels lighter? You can answer in your head or whisper it aloud. What matters isn't the answer, but the act of pausing and turning inward. That moment itself is already a victory. Some might say, is it really necessary I still sleep? But be honest, are you resting or just shutting down? You sleep, but do you wake with clarity? Or do you drag yesterday's exhaustion into today? The difference isn't in hours, but in quality. And quality begins with reflection. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Do not let your mind become enslaved by external events." When you let others or circumstances dictate your state of mind before bed, you've handed away your most precious freedom. But when you pause to reflect and release, you reclaim your control. You can start tonight, no special setup, no candles, no soothing playlists, just turn off the lights. Sit in silence and ask those 3 questions. Try it once. Tomorrow morning, you will feel the difference. Because when you learn to end a day in peace, you'll discover a larger truth. Most of our suffering doesn't come from reality, but from illusions we unconsciously accept. And that is what we'll go deeper into next. Escaping the illusion of comparison. When you've learned to close a day in silence, another truth becomes clear. Most mental exhaustion doesn't come from how much you do, but from how often you compare yourself to others. The modern world doesn't need chains to bind you. All it has to do is plant the idea that you're falling behind. And today, falling behind rarely means hunger or poverty. It can mean fewer likes, a slower promotion, or not moving into the trendiest apartment your friends flaunt on Instagram. You think you're making free choices, but in reality, you're just following a script written by someone you'll never meet. Look at everyday life in America. A young man in New York upgrades his apartment not because he needs more space, but because his neighbor posted photos of a Scandinavian-style living room. A woman in California quits a job she once loved because her peers are getting promoted. These choices look personal, but they're reactions to the pressure of comparison. Comparison never ends. There will always be someone richer, better looking, more successful. And the trap isn't that you compare to learn, you punish yourself with a standard that was never yours. Take Vera Wang, the world-renowned fashion designer. Before success, she was a figure skater, then a fashion editor. She didn't start her brand until age 40, an industry where people are told you're done if you're not successful by 30. She would have quit if she had lived in the trap of comparison. But instead of racing against society's timeline, she chose her own rhythm. Or Michael Faraday, one of history's most outstanding scientists. He was mocked for being a poor bookbinder with no university degree and dismissed by academics. But he didn't chase recognition. He focused on what mattered to him, electromagnetism. From that came the foundation of modern electricity. Both Wang and Faraday proved the same truth: living true to yourself matters more than chasing the gaze of others. Why is it so hard to escape comparison? The answer lies in biology. The human brain releases dopamine, the neurotransmitter of pleasure, not just when you achieve a reward, but even when you expect one. Every time you scroll and see someone succeed, you whisper to yourself, "I need that too." Your brain gives you a minor temporary hit of dopamine, but it never lasts, so you compare again. You chase again. A study from the University of Pittsburgh on when 765 young Americans found that heavy social media users were twice as likely to suffer body image issues or eating disorders. Not because they were inferior, but because they were drowning in a game whose rules were written by someone else. Stoic philosophy warned of this centuries ago. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish by others." He didn't mean you should pretend to be ignorant, but that you must accept being misunderstood when walking your path. The lesson is clear. Absolute freedom begins the moment you stop needing the approval of others. How do you practice this? Try small steps. Do something just for yourself. Write a journal entry sketch, a picture, practice a sport move, but don't post it. Feel what it's like to act only for you, not for an audience. Eat without photographing. When food is in front of you, eat and enjoy. Don't turn every moment into content for others to judge. Sit with your achievement. After finishing something difficult, don't rush for praise. Ask your what am I most proud of? That I did something I feared or that others might clap for me? At first, it feels uncomfortable. Your brain will itch waiting for feedback. But if you push through, you'll gain something far greater: mental independence. Look at Mark, a software engineer in Chicago. He lived in a loop, studying to post certificates, working out to show off his body, and reading books to share covers. After years, he was drained. No progress, only fatigue. Then he turned off notifications, stopped showing off, and wrote each night, "Where did I improve today?" No one praised him. No one knew. 6 months later, coworkers noticed he looked stronger and calmer. A year later, he was offered a leadership role, not because he was loud, but because he had truly changed. Mark's story proves this. When you stop living to prove, you start living to grow. You can carry a question tonight. If no one could see me, would I still want to do this? If the answer is yes, it's truly yours. If not, maybe you're living for someone else's eyes. Marcus Aurelius once reminded, "Don't waste time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Comparison will always exist, but you have the choice to live by society's invisible script or to write your own. And once you escape the illusion of comparison, another enemy reveals itself, more subtle, more persistent. Not from society, but from within your body, the craving for instant satisfaction. The addiction to quick rewards, that's what makes you quit too soon and repeat the same failures. Escaping the addiction to instant gratification. When you stop comparing yourself to others, it feels like a weight has lifted. But there's a more subtle enemy inside your brain, the craving for instant gratification. It doesn't come from society, it comes from biology. And it quietly drives more of your decisions than you realize. Have you ever picked up your phone to check the time, only to find yourself scrolling TikTok 15 minutes later? Have you ever posted a photo and immediately checked back to see how many likes you got? That isn't a personal weakness. That's your dopamine system playing tricks on you. Neuroscientists explain that dopamine, the neurotransmitter of excitement, doesn't just appear when you achieve something, but also when you think you're about to. When you refresh Facebook, when you wait for a text reply, or when you hope your video gets more views, your brain releases dopamine, even if nothing happens. Each time your brain conditions you to repeat the behavior. The result, you expect instant returns everywhere. A week of studying should make you smarter. 3 days of working out should make muscles pop, and a month of business should bring profits. When results don't come quickly, you feel like a failure and quit. Not because you lack potential, but because your brain has been wired to expect artificial speed. In America, this is especially clear. The fast food, fast success culture feeds the illusion that everything should happen quickly. We lose 10 pounds in 7 days, make 10,000 monthly, learn Spanish in 30 days. These promises don't just sell products. They sell the illusion that speed equals success. But reality, what comes fast usually leaves fast. A young entrepreneur in San Francisco once tried nearly 5 startups in 3 years. Each one started with excitement, but after a few months when profits didn't appear, he jumped to a new idea. The result, nothing but a long list of abandoned projects. He finally made a real profit when he stopped chasing speed and committed to one product for 2 years. The Stoics saw this thousands of years ago. Seneca wrote, "There is no favorable wind for the sailor who doesn't know where he is going." You'll never go far if you change direction whenever you don't see quick results. So how do you escape the trap of instant gratification? You can't eliminate dopamine, but you can retrain your brain to live with patience. Start small. Slow down daily habits. When drinking your morning coffee, don't scroll your phone. Just sit and savor each sip. You're teaching your brain that satisfaction doesn't require instant entertainment. Practice delaying rewards. Before opening social media, set a timer for 10 minutes. Each time you wait, you strengthen your ability to hold back. Focus on process, not results. An American athlete once said, "I don't train to win races, I train to make my body stronger each day." When you value the process, you stop obsessing over quick outcomes. Take Mark, an MBA student in Boston. He constantly abandoned plans. He started writing his thesis but quit after a week without inspiration. He picked up the guitar but stopped when his fingers hurt. Then one day a professor suggested Stoic philosophy. Mark tried a simple practice, running 10 minutes every morning no matter what. No extra time, no social media posts, just 10 minutes. At first it felt pointless, but after 3 months he could not run further. He found himself sticking with other things, too steady study and writing. He was no longer a victim of instant craving. Modern psychology calls this delayed gratification. The famous Stanford marshmallow experiment offered children a choice: eat 1 marshmallow now or wait 15 minutes for 2. Those who stayed tended to have better academic career and health outcomes later. Not because they were smarter, but because they could resist immediate desire for long-term gain. Marcus Aurelius echoed the same truth in Meditations. Wait, be patient. Whatever is meant to come will come in its time. He had no internet or fast food, but he understood human nature. The impatient suffer the most. You can begin training tonight. When you feel the urge to check messages, take a deep breath and wait 2 minutes, just 2. Tomorrow, stretch it to 5. Soon you'll notice the craving losing its grip. The key isn't to fight the addiction, it's to observe it, recognize it, and choose differently. As Epictetus said, it's not things that disturb you, but your judgments about them. Instant gratification isn't the enemy, it's just instinct. But if you let it steer your life, you'll stay trapped in short-term loops. If you train yourself to wait, you'll gain something rare, the power to build what lasts. And that's when you're ready for the next lesson, the lesson of expectations. Because there's something even more dangerous than instant desire, the hidden expectations you carry every day, the invisible rules you impose on yourself without knowing. Only by letting go of expectations can you truly be free. Letting go of expectations, the door to inner freedom. We just talked about instant gratification, how your brain demands quick results. But there's something quieter, more persistent, and far more destructive: expectations. The strange thing is, most expectations we carry weren't consciously chosen. They were planted by family and society silent comparisons, and unwritten rules that no one ever spoke aloud. We grow up believing careers must follow a straight line, love must follow a script, and friends must act as we imagine. And when life doesn't follow the script, we suffer not because reality is cruel, but because our expectations were betrayed. Think back to the last time you felt hurt. Maybe a close friend didn't call back. Perhaps a client didn't answer your email. Maybe a partner didn't understand you. In truth, none of them ever promised to react the way you wanted. But there was a hidden law in your head. Friends should always be there when needed. Colleagues should value your effort, and partners should know what you feel without words. When those hidden laws weren't met, you felt betrayed. Notice this, it wasn't reality that broke you, but the gap between reality and expectation. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Do not expect people not to do wrong. To expect the bad not to happen is absurd." He wasn't urging pessimism, but clarity. If you expect life always to go smoothly, you'll suffer endlessly. Taylor, a media professional in New York, is proof of this. He earned good money and had a lovely apartment in Brooklyn, but every night he felt empty. Would because in his head lived a perfect version of himself, more successful, more popular, in a flawless relationship. He wasn't living with reality, but with a fantasy blueprint. And so nothing he achieved was ever enough. The danger of expectations is that they become invisible traps. They make us chase approval, sacrifice truth for acceptance. We smile when we don't want to stay silent, when we want to speak, nod yes when we mean no. On the outside, it looks like peace. On the inside, it's civil war. Stoicism warns us the mind can never be at peace if it betrays itself. So how do we break free? Not by erasing every desire, but by facing them and choosing which expectations to keep and which to let go. Try this simple exercise, the mirror of expectations. When you feel anger rise, ask yourself, which expectation of mine was just broken? For example, you're upset when a colleague doesn't reply to your email on time. The hidden expectation of everyone must prioritize you. You're disappointed when your partner forgets an anniversary. The hidden expectation, love, is always proven by remembering details. Once you see the secret rule, you realize how often it's unreasonable. A modern Stoic philosopher, William Irvine, suggests practicing negative visualization. Imagine things not going your way. In the morning, think, today someone may reject me. Something unfair may happen. Someone may misunderstand me. This doesn't make you gloomy, it prepares your mind. So when it happens, you aren't shocked. You're already one step ahead. Psychology backs this up. The more someone clings to total control, the more prone they are to anxiety and depression. A Yale study found that people with rigid expectations in relationships suffered higher stress and struggled more after breakups. Those who accepted that others may not act as I wish recovered faster and kept their inner peace. The deepest proof comes from Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived Auschwitz. He noticed many prisoners tied their hope to specific expectations. I'll be free by Christmas. When that day passed without freedom, they collapsed into despair. Frankl realized hope chained to exact expectations could kill faster than hunger. From this insight, he built logotherapy, the idea that survival depends not on fulfilling expectations, but finding meaning no matter the circumstance. Stoicism says the same. You don't need to abandon all expectations, but beware of the anonymous ones, creeping into your most minor reactions. Try writing down 3 shoulds you live by. For example, I should always be respected. My partner should always understand me. Work should always go smoothly. Then cross out the word should, reread them. I am respected. My partner understands me. Work goes smoothly. Without the should, notice the lightness. You are no longer forcing life to follow a script. Of course, this is easier said than done. Letting go of expectations isn't overnight work. It's like cleaning a room you thought was tidy, only to find dust in every corner. Each time you feel anger or sadness, treat it as a signal. Another hidden expectation has surfaced, waiting to be examined. As you practice, you'll see the truth. Pain doesn't come from people, but from the roles you secretly wrote for them. That friend didn't hurt you. You hurt because they didn't play the part you assigned. When you understand this, you step into freedom. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each morning, "Today I will meet the selfish, the ungrateful, the deceitful, but they cannot harm me because I have chosen to keep my character." This wasn't resignation, it was liberation. He no longer expected the world to be perfect, so the world could no longer break him. Imagine this: you head to work, a colleague ignores you. Client is demanding and traffic is heavy. Instead of tightening with anger, you whisper, "I don't expect things to be easy. I only need to keep myself steady." Instantly, the mind quiets. That is the doorway to inner freedom. Not living by should, but by is. Not reacting unthinkingly, but choosing consciously. And once you release expectations, you are ready to face what remains the noise inside your mind, not from others, but from within: self-criticism, comparisons, fears. That is the next challenge and the next step on the Stoic path, learning to listen and to be still. Silence and true inner strength. When you've let go of some of your hidden expectations, you notice something else: your mind is still noisy. Not with the outside noise of social media, work, or other people, but with the endless whispers inside. A constant flow of self-criticism, comparison, and worries about things that haven't even happened yet. This is the noise of the mind and is often the greatest thief of peace. Think of a typical day. You're walking and suddenly remember a colleague's annoying remark from the morning, replaying in your head how you should have answered back. You're eating dinner, but your mind has already jumped to tomorrow's meeting, worrying about how it will go. You lie down at night and instead of drifting into sleep, you're consumed with a promise left unfulfilled or a text left unanswered. Not once are you truly in the present, and then you wonder, why am I always exhausted? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Men are not disturbed by things, but by the views which they take of them." The inner noise is precisely that: your views, your endless replay. It's not the event that breaks you, but how you keep reliving it. Take the story of David, a consultant in Chicago. He was always energetic in meetings and debating to prove his intelligence. But over time, he felt drained. Not from too much work, but from wasting energy on unnecessary things, arguing to win, reacting to every small slight, and responding to every attack. One day he tried something new: silence. He didn't quit his job or retreat from life. He chose not to react to everything. After 3 months, he was a different man. He spoke less, but when he did, people listened. He joined fewer discussions, but when he did, he went deeper. His strength didn't come from knowing more, but from saying less. In Stoic philosophy, silence isn't avoidance. It is a strategy of strength. You don't let others read your emotions. When you remain silent easily, you become steady, unpredictable, and less vulnerable. Seneca once reminded, "What you bear in silence strengthens you more than what you oppose aloud." But silence isn't suppression. True silence is the ability to sit with yourself and observe without being pulled in. Many fear this because when the mind grows still, it forces them to face the emptiness inside. Yet only in that emptiness do you see truth. Just as a lake reflects the sky only when the water is still, the mind becomes clear only when it stops repeating noise. In modern psychology, this is called mindful silence, not outer silence, but inner non-interference. A Harvard study found that people who practiced just 15 minutes of mindful silence daily had 38% lower stress than control groups. No complex meditation, just sitting still, watching thoughts without judgment. You can try this tonight. Before bed, turn off every device. Sit in the dark for 5 minutes. When thoughts rush in, don't fight them. Name them: worry, comparison, anger. Name them, then let them go. With practice, you realize you are not your thoughts. You are the observer, not the puppet. Silence is also a powerful strategy in communication. Often your instinct is to fire back immediately when insulted, when an email irritates you, when a partner says something hurtful. But if you choose silence, breathe, pause before reacting, you take back control. Others lose the power to pull your strings, and when you finally speak, your words carry more weight. History offers examples. Abraham Lincoln was known for never replying to letters in anger. He would write his raw emotions, fold the letter, set it aside, and only respond when calm. His decisions, less clouded by impulse, carried far greater influence. In daily life, you can practice the 3-second pause. When someone says something that stings, don't answer right away. Stay silent, count to 3. 3 seconds is enough to shift from instinct to conscious choice. In that space, you stop being a puppet of emotion and become its master. Most importantly, silence makes you mysterious. Those who always speak, always display themselves, are the easiest to read and the easiest to wound. Those who know when to hold back and when to keep energy in reserve grow harder to read and harder to shake. No one knows what you're thinking, and that is power. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The most stable man is he who does not let others see him waver. But be careful, silence doesn't mean disappearance. It doesn't mean cutting yourself off from the world. It means selection. You choose when to appear, when to speak, when to withdraw. It is the art of strategy, not escape. Try it one day without social media, one morning without music, one conversation where you only listen. At first it feels empty, even uncomfortable. But soon you notice you hear more, see more, and feel life more clearly. That is the reward of silence, true inner strength. Over time, you'll notice a paradox. Those who are silent are often the most heard. Not because they shout louder, but because others know it matters when they speak. Their restraint gives their voice its weight. In the end, silence is how you free yourself from the spiral of noise. You no longer need to prove, you no longer need to react to everything. You return to a calm center untouched by the chaos outside. And from there, you are finally ready for the next step, control and choice. Because silence is not the destination, it is the foundation for making wise decisions free from noise and emotion. Control and choice, living as a master, not as a victim. Silence gives you steadiness, but silence alone isn't enough. Because once the noise in your mind settles, you're faced with a more complex question. Now, what do I choose? Life constantly throws situations at you, a cutting remark, an unexpected opportunity, a painful setback. And each one is a fork in the road. Either you let it drag you or choose your own direction. Epictetus reminded us, men are disturbed not by things but by the views they take of them. This is the essence of control. You can't dictate what happens outside, what others think, how the market shifts, whether the weather turns. But you always have one freedom no one can take away: how you respond. In modern American life, we see this difference daily. Two people lost their jobs at the same company. The first spends months complaining, blaming the economy, the boss, the unfair system, until bitterness consumes him. The second feels sadness and fear too, but then asks, "This is outside my control. So what can I do right now?" He learns a new skill, applies it in a different field, and finds a better job within months. The same event, two different lives divided by one choice. The truth is, most of us live like victims of our emotions and circumstances. A single insult can ruin your day. A bad news headline keeps you awake at night. A cold glance makes you question your worth. Yet Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "If you are harmed, it is because you have allowed yourself to be harmed. Others can only do half. The other half is how you receive it." Think back to the last time you got angry. Maybe it was being stuck in traffic for hours. Maybe your kids ignored you. You had two paths: unleash your anger, shout, hurt others, and regret later. Or pause, breathe, and choose a different response. The first reaction comes from instinct. The second comes from mastery. Behavioral psychology calls this the golden pause. There is always a gap between stimulus and response. And inside that gap lies your freedom. The weak let instinct fill it, the strong use it to choose. Consider Sarah, a nurse in New York. During the pandemic, she was screamed at daily by patients and their families' fear and stress overflowing. At first, she went home crying, exhausted, resentful. Then she came across Epictetus's line, "No one can harm you without your consent." From that day, she practiced a small habit. When yelled at, she took a deep breath and reminded herself, "This isn't the truth about me. This is their pain." She stayed calm, did her job well, and refused to be pulled into the storm. This isn't just psychological strength, it's survival in the modern world. In America, surrounded by endless news, social feeds, and work pressure, you'll burn out if you don't know what's in your control and what's not. You'll keep chasing what's out of reach instead of reinforcing what's already in your hands. So how do you live as a master? First, build the habit of classification. When something happens, ask 3 questions. Is this within my control? If yes, what's the smallest action I can take right now? If not, how can I release it? Take a simple example. Your flight is delayed. You can't change the weather or schedules, but you can read, catch up on work, or call a loved one. The complainer grows tired. The master turns wasted hours into opportunity. Second, replace hope thinking with prepared thinking. Most people lean on hope. I hope the interview goes well. I hope they understand me. But hope isn't in your control. The Stoics taught swap hope for preparation. Instead of hoping for a smooth interview, prepare answers. Instead of hoping others will understand, prepare for the chance they won't. That way, you're no longer hostage to fortune. Third, practice with small daily tests. You can't wait for a crisis to practice mastery. Start small. When cut off in traffic, resist cursing. When an annoying email arrives, don't reply right away. When a restaurant gets your order wrong, stay calm as you correct it. Each small drill strengthens your mental muscles so you're ready for the big storms. I remember my own lesson. Once I lost nearly a whole day arguing online with a stranger. At the end, I gained nothing but fatigue. Then Seneca's words struck me. People are robbed of their time not by violence, but by wasting it on what they give away willingly. From that day, I asked, is this worth my energy? 9 out of 10 times, the answer is no. Living as a master doesn't mean being detached or uncaring. It means knowing your boundary. I give my best within what I can control, and the outcome belongs to life. Victims let feelings dictate actions. Masters let chosen actions shape feelings. And once you practice this habit, you'll taste a rare freedom. The things that once irritated you, someone's remark, a delay, a minor failure, no longer hold power. You don't need to control the world anymore. You only need to control yourself. From this mastery, you're ready for the next chapter, the one no one escapes adversity and pain. Because life, no matter how disciplined or controlled you are, will always hand you suffering. And that's where Stoicism shines brightest, turning adversity into fuel for growth. Adversity and pain, turning hardship into fuel for growth. Have you ever wondered why the hardest seasons of your life are also the ones where you grew the fastest? The answer lies in a truth most try to avoid. Pain is the most potent catalyst for change. Modern people see adversity as the enemy. In America, you'll find thousands of ads promising to help you escape suffering, anxiety pills, supplements, get-rich-fast courses, services that claim to fix every problem in 3 easy steps. But Stoicism looks at life differently. For the Stoics, pain isn't something to run from, it's something to use. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Look at real life. A young man in the US loses his job during a round of layoffs. At first, he feels shattered, no income, identity, or confidence. But after months of reflection, he realizes this is the push he needed to chase a long-buried dream, opening a small auto repair shop. 3 years later, he is not just making a living, but is happier than ever. Without that accident, he might have stayed forever in that office chair, sighing through every morning commute. Adversity is like fire. It can burn you down or it can forge you. The difference is in how you choose to respond. Seneca advised, "Do not pray for things to happen as you wish, but wish for them to happen as they do." That isn't resignation. It's the art of turning everything into fuel. Modern psychology calls this post-traumatic growth. Studies in the US show that people who endure crises, losing jobs, divorces, even illness, often come out with deeper lives, stronger values, and greater appreciation for relationships. They don't go back to normal. They step into a new level of maturity. Why do others collapse under hardship? Because they misunderstand pain. They think pain means they're losing, but pain means you're alive. Pain signals that you're stepping out of comfort into the territory of change. If you learn to read this signal, you won't shrink back. You'll move forward with open eyes. Think about the gym. Muscles don't grow if you only lift light weights. They need resistance that is heavy enough to create micro tears. Those tiny tears, when healed, make the muscle stronger. The soul works the same way. If you live only in comfort, the mind softens. You become a stronger version of yourself only by colliding with hardship, by letting those tears open in your emotions. In American life, you see countless examples. Immigrants arriving with nothing, struggling with language, labor, and prejudice. Yet it is precisely those struggles that grow their patience, creativity, and resilience. They succeed not because it was easy, but because adversity forced them to be stronger. Marcus Aurelius spent his life on battlefields surrounded by loss. He wasn't unthinkingly optimistic. He accepted that hardship is natural, and if it cannot be avoided, the only choice is to use it to grow stronger. So how do you turn pain into fuel? First, name the pain instead of avoiding it. When you lose a relationship, don't bury yourself in work saying, "I'm fine." Say clearly, "I'm in pain because I feel abandoned." Naming a feeling is like turning on the light in a dark room. It doesn't erase pain, but it shows you the way through. Second, find meaning inside adversity. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived Auschwitz, saw that survivors weren't always the strongest. They were the ones who found meaning. Some lived to see family again, others to write their story. Frankl wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." So ask yourself, what is this pain teaching me? Third practice, premeditatio. Malorum, preparing for adversity. It sounds negative, but it dissolves fear. Seneca once lived one day a month like a poor man eating rough bread, wearing simple clothes, sleeping on the floor. Not as punishment, but as training. If the worst happens, I can still endure. When you rehearse difficulty, real hardship loses its terror. Fourth, build small habits of discomfort. Put yourself in minor challenges. Walk in the cold instead of driving. Wake up an hour earlier to read. Sit quietly in meditation when your mind wants to escape. These minor hardships train your tolerance. Then when the real storm hits, you already have the mental muscle to withstand it. Consider David Goggins, once an overweight, broken man, now known as one of the toughest voices on mental strength. He transformed by choosing pain, daily running and snow training when exhausted, in facing physical suffering, to harden his mind. You don't need to go to Goggins' extremes, but his lesson stands: pain is the gym for the soul. Of course, not every hardship reveals meaning right away. Sometimes it is only darkness, only loss. But if you endure with patience one day, you will look back and see the darkness taught you to treasure light. And once you've learned to turn adversity into fuel, you step into the next level, sustainable discipline. Because getting through hardship once can be instinct, but turning endurance into daily practice, that's the foundation of a powerful life. Sustainable discipline, turning temporary power into lasting instinct. Many people think discipline is just a mental boost. They watch a motivational video, read a book, or blast some pump-up music and feel unstoppable. But a few days later, the fire fades and they return to old habits. That's why most self-improvement plans die after a week. Real discipline isn't emotion, it's a system. Picture a typical morning in America. John, an office worker, sets his alarm for 6 a.m. Too bad to go for a run. When it rings, he hits snooze just 10 more minutes. By the time he finally gets up, it's 6:45. He feels guilty and promises tomorrow will be different. But tomorrow the same story repeats. John's problem isn't motivation. It's that he hasn't turned discipline into a habit. Stoic philosophy sees this clearly. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you have a task before you don't wait for inspiration or applause, get up and do it like a soldier at his post." For him, discipline didn't come from external feelings, but from an inner decision repeated daily until it became instinct. Modern psychology calls this habit automation. Research from University College London found that on average, it takes 66 days for an action to become automatic. In other words, if you stick with something for 2 months, it relies less on willpower and more on autopilot. The problem, most people quit before crossing that resistance phase. So how do you build sustainable discipline? 1. Build systems, not willpower. Willpower is like a muscle. If you strain it too much, it tires. Instead of fighting yourself every morning, should I wake up early? Design your environment so the right choice is the default. Leave your running shoes next to the bed. Turn off Wi-Fi at night so you're not pulled into your phone. Schedule a workout partner so it's harder to quit. You don't force discipline when the environment works for you. You follow the flow. 2. Use startup rituals. Athletes in America have fixed routines before games of the same music and shoelace knot. It's not superstition, it's training the brain to switch from passive to active. You can do the same: a cup of coffee, a few stretches, 3 lines of journaling before the day begins. Small rituals are signals it's time to start. 3. Link actions to meaning. Seneca wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Discipline dies if it's only an obligation. If you run to lose 2 pounds, you'll quit when the scale doesn't move. But if you run to stay healthy enough to play with your kids longer, that meaning will carry you even when results are slow. 4. Embrace boredom. One of the biggest myths is that discipline should always feel exciting. In truth, it often feels dull. Lifting weights day after day gets tiring. Reading each night sometimes feels sleepy. But boredom is a sign you're on the right track. Like Roman soldiers, they didn't train for excitement. They trained so their bodies moved without hesitation in battle. Discipline is like that: dull in the present, extraordinary in the future. 5. Reflect daily. Every night, Marcus Aurelius wrote, not for fame, but for self-checking. Where did I act against my principles today? What can I improve tomorrow? This reflection kept discipline alive and not rigid. You can do the same in 5 minutes. Write down 3 things: what went right, what went wrong, and what to adjust. Simple but powerful. In American life, examples of sustainable discipline are everywhere. Even with fame and wealth, NFL athletes still train under strict routines for years. A software engineer in Silicon Valley spends 30 minutes each morning studying AI. 5 years later, he's a leading expert. Despite exhaustion, a single mom in Texas reads with her child for 15 minutes every night, and a decade later, her child is one of the top students in the state. None of them needed an audience. They showed up daily and the results stacked into greatness. The key is this: discipline isn't self-imprisonment, it's self-liberation. A person without discipline is like a ship without a rudder, tossed by every wave of emotion and circumstance. A person with discipline is like a sailor with a compass, still struck by storms, but always returning to the chosen course. You may have heard the question, do you want freedom or discipline? But the truth is they're the same. Without discipline, you are controlled by emotions and external chaos. With discipline, you're free to say no to distractions, persist in what matters, and live without needing reminders. Try this for 7 days. Pick one small act: drink water first thing in the morning, walk 15 minutes after dinner, or write 1 line in a journal. Do it at the same time every day, no excuses. Don't expect fireworks. Just see if you can push through the boredom. If you can, you have laid the first brick of sustainable discipline. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. Be good while you live, while it is in your power." This isn't just a call to cherish time, it's a call to act with discipline now. Because if you don't train discipline, today you'll keep sliding into tomorrow's loop. When discipline becomes habit, you no longer fight yourself each morning. You don't ask, "Should I do this today?" You do it like breathing. That is a real strength. And when you reach that level, you'll discover a vast energy unlocked, no longer drained by constant battles with procrastination. You'll have power left for creativity, love, and the decisions that matter most. That is Stoic discipline in modern practice, not chains that bind you, but the bridge that carries you into inner freedom. And once you cross that bridge, you're ready for the next depth, living fully in the present, not racing time, not fearing the future, but being here now. Full presence, the art of living deeply in every moment. When discipline has become instinct, the next question is no longer, how do I keep going? But am I truly living or just existing? That's when the practice of full presence begins. Americans live in a culture of speed. Office workers are buried in emails and deadlines. After work, social gatherings house chores, and then back into the whirlpool of social media. Everyone feels like they're running an endless race. But in all this rushing, how often are you really present? How often do you drink a cup of coffee and truly taste it instead of sipping while checking notifications? How frequently do you sit with your loved ones and listen instead of nodding while your mind drifts elsewhere? Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. Be good while you live, while it is in your power." It sounds simple, but it points straight to the truth we forget to live because we assume we have endless time. Modern psychology calls this mind wandering. A Harvard study found that on average, people spend 47% of their day thinking about the past or future instead of the present. And the paradox is, the more the mind wanders, the less happy people feel. Because when your mind is elsewhere, the present moment fades. Stoicism looks it in the eye. The past is gone, the future is not yet here, and the only thing you own is this moment. Miss it, and you miss your life. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Life is long if you know how to use it." Watch a morning commute in New York. Hundreds crammed into the subway AirPods and eyes glued to screens. No one is truly there. They're just waiting for the next stop. For many, it's a picture of life, always thinking about the destination, never living in the journey. So how do you practice full presence? First, slow down. Presence doesn't happen when you're rushing. It comes when you move slow enough to notice. Instead of inhaling lunch in 10 frantic minutes, sit, chew, slowly taste. Instead of walking while checking your email, leave your phone behind and feel the wind on your face. This isn't luxury, it's reclaiming your right to live. Second, observe instead of judging. A colleague says something irritating. Instead of reacting, pause and ask, "I feel angry, why?" "Oh, yeah." That pause is presence. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you interpret it." Observation opens space between event and reaction, and in that space lies your freedom. Third practice, micro-presence, tiny pauses in the day. You don't need an hour of meditation, just seconds. When washing your hands, feel the water instead of thinking ahead. Stuck in traffic, instead of fuming, notice your breath. These small anchors slowly rewire the mind to rest in the now. Fourth, redefine success. In America, success is tied to speed, fast promotions, fast money, fast fame. But if that were true, why do so many at the top still feel empty? Because they never lived the process. They ran so fast they missed the experience. By the time they arrived, there was nothing left but exhaustion. Stoicism reminds us real success is not the finish line, it's living by your values moment by moment. Take Sarah, a doctor in California. For years, she poured herself into shifts, thinking nonstop sacrifice for patients made her life meaningful. But at home, she was drained with nothing left for her husband and kids. One day she changed. Every evening, she set aside 15 minutes, no phone, no TV, just listening to her kids talk about their day. Small, but it transformed her family. Because Sarah wasn't just a doctor anymore, she was present as a mother and wife. This isn't just emotional, it's neurological. When you're present, the brain quiets the default mode network, the source of anxiety and comparison. At the same time, regions for focus and positive emotion light up. Presence doesn't just make you happier, it makes you sharper, more creative. But presence isn't always pleasant. Sometimes being present means sitting with sadness, with emptiness, without running. Yet those moments teach courage. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not look for a life without hardship. Accept it as part of nature." Try this. Pick one daily moment to live in fully. Morning coffee, walking the dog and reading a single page. It doesn't matter what matters is that you are fully there. Do this for a week and you'll notice that time feels slower and life feels clearer. There's a story of an old Italian-American man in Brooklyn. He would sit on his porch, sip tea, and watch people pass. Someone asked, "Why aren't you doing anything?" He smiled, I'm living." In a world obsessed with, what did you achieve? Presence is the quiet answer, I was here and that was enough. When you live this way, every moment becomes a jewel. A rainy afternoon isn't dull, it's a soft song to listen to. A conversation isn't just information, it's a connection. A day isn't a blur, it's a painted canvas. The art of full presence is the Stoic art for modern life. You don't need to quit your job or become a monk. You need to return to the present again and again. And from there, you discover a freedom no speed can give you. When you learn presence, time itself shifts. It no longer races past you, hold it. But even in presence, you'll find the mind still tugged by unhealed wounds, by invisible expectations. Presence helps you pause, but only by letting go can you truly feel light. And that is the next step, learning to release the emotions and silent demands that bind you. The art of letting go of emotions and expectations. Have you ever lain in bed, eyes closed yet? Your mind feels heavy, not because the day was terrible, but because the emotions are still clinging inside you with no release. A careless comment from someone, a look you interpreted as disrespect, or even a promise you placed in someone that went unanswered. If not let go, these follow you into sleep and greet you again in the morning like wrinkles pressed deeper into the mind. Stoicism teaches us something cold, but liberating emotions are not the truth, and expectations are invisible chains that bind you more than anyone could. Epictetus once said, "It is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about them." A simple line, but it illuminates countless situations. We don't suffer because a friend forgot to call. We suffer because we believed if they cared, they would have called. It isn't the event, the belief, the expectation that creates pain. In modern life, especially in America, expectations are everywhere. An employee expects the boss always to be fair. A wife expects her husband to remember every anniversary. A child expects parents to understand without words. But life isn't run by the unspoken rules we write. Reality often drifts away from what we expect. And in that gap, the gap between reality and expectation, suffering is born. Psychology calls this the expectation-reality gap. The wider it is, the more profound the disappointment. That's why one can earn a high salary and live in a comfortable apartment, yet still feel unsatisfied because their expectations grew beyond what they achieved. Another person living simply feels full because they never loaded their life with endless shoulds and musts. Seneca reminded us, your happiness depends on the quality of your thoughts. And if those thoughts are filled with invisible expectations, peace will always disappear. Expectations are like a bottomless bucket. The more you pour in, the emptier it feels. But letting go doesn't mean becoming calm or uncaring. Letting go means facing the emotion, acknowledging it, and allowing it to pass without clinging. Imagine emotions as a flowing river. Grip them tightly, and water slips through your hands, leaving only exhaustion. But let it flow, and it moves on while you feel lighter. One practice recommended by both Stoic philosophers and modern psychologists is labeling emotions. When angry, whisper to yourself, "This is anger." When you're sad, "This is sadness." When you're envious, "This is envy." Simple as it sounds, it creates distance between you and the emotion. You are no longer fused with it. You become the observer, not the victim. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Understand this, and you see the truth. You cannot control others, but you can always control how you respond. John, an engineer in Texas, experienced constant frustration because his boss kept criticizing his projects. He believed it was disrespectful. Over time, the resentment grew so heavy that he even thought about quitting. One evening driving home, he remembered Epictetus' words. He asked himself, "Am I reacting to the fact or to my expectation?" The fact: his boss criticized his work to improve it. The expectation: his boss should always validate him. Seeing the difference, John felt lighter. He still heard the criticism, but it no longer struck his dignity. He began responding calmly instead of angrily. In America, where the culture of success is idolized, expectations often come from society itself. You're supposed to own a home, have a car, hold a prestigious job, and build a large retirement fund. But if you live only to meet the standards others have set you, abandon yourself. Stoicism asks, do you truly want this, or just want to be seen as having it? That one question alone can peel away layers of illusion. From psychology's view, letting go of expectations doesn't mean giving up on dreams. It means shifting focus from outcome to action. Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman showed that people judge happiness more by how they interpret experiences than by results. Anchor happiness in outcomes, and disappointment is certain. Anchor it in actions, and you find freedom. So how do you train the art of letting go? First, practice negative visualization. Each day, imagine losing something: your job, your money, a loved one. Do not be pessimistic, but remind yourself nothing is guaranteed. This awareness makes you cherish what you have and loosens irrational expectations. Second, write a letting go journal. Before bed, write down one negative emotion from the day: anger, disappointment, loneliness. Then add, I cannot control this, and I choose to let it pass. The act of writing is a ritual of closure. Third, accept silence. Often what hurts is not what was said, but what wasn't. No apology, no reply, no closure. You crave an ending, but life doesn't always give it. Letting go is giving yourself closure instead of waiting for someone else. The story of Cain and Abel in the Bible illustrates this timelessly. Cain didn't know what to do with his anger when his offering wasn't accepted. Instead of facing and releasing it, he let emotion control him, and tragedy followed. The lesson still stands. Emotions aren't dangerous if you sit with them. They're only risky when you let them lead. Here's a hard truth: many emotions you carry today don't belong to the present. They're echoes of the past, a parent's harsh word, a childhood wound, an old failure. You carry them like a backpack of stones, thinking it protects you, but it only slows you down. Letting go, it isn't forgetting. It's accepting that the past no longer has the right to define you today. In therapy, there's a method called reframing. Instead of labeling an event a failure, see it as a learning experience. Instead of thinking I was rejected, believe I discovered where I don't fit yet. This too is letting go of hidden expectations. At its core, Stoicism reminds us the world won't bend to your will, but your mind can learn not to be dragged by it. Each expectation you release gives you back a piece of freedom. Each heavy emotion you let pass frees more energy. Slowly, piece by piece, you return to lightness, not because the world changed, but because you did. The art of growing through change and continuous evolution. Change is something we humans both crave and fear. Nowhere is this more obvious than in America today. Tech companies in Silicon Valley can be booming one day and laying off thousands the next, all because of a market shift. Busy New York streets can look completely different after a financial crisis. A suburban family living peacefully can have their future upside down by a single unexpected medical bill. Life never asks if you are ready. It shifts without warning. Human instinct, however, clings to safety. We love the familiar, steady jobs, familiar faces, predictable routines. These give us the illusion of control, but the truth is stability is fragile. And when it breaks, what hurts us most isn't the event itself, it's that we never learned how to evolve with change. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." A simple line, but it reveals a hard truth: you cannot stop change. You can only change yourself to keep moving with it. Think of those who held on to one job for 20 to 30 years. In America, millions have lived this way. A factory worker in Detroit, a taxi driver in New York, a Wall Street broker. Many believed their work would carry them to retirement. Then came technology, robots, Uber, and artificial intelligence. What once felt certain quickly became obsolete. Those who clung to stability collapsed. Those who chose to learn, adapt, and enter new fields discovered a stronger version of themselves. This is the essence of growth, not piling up more possessions, but shedding old skins when they no longer fit. Like a snake forced to shed, the process is uncomfortable. Refuse it and the snake dies in its old skin. You see this in ordinary American lives. A 45-year-old man loses his job. Instead of drowning in bitterness, he takes a night class in IT, starts on small projects, and becomes an IT manager within a few years. A single mother terrified after a divorce slowly learns to stand independently, takes evening courses, opens a small shop, and rediscovers her dignity. They didn't choose change, but they decided to evolve when it came. Stoicism reminds us you cannot force the world to obey you, but you can train yourself not to be crushed by it. Change is the training ground for resilience. The more you resist, the more it hurts. But if you observe, accept, and adjust, change becomes nourishment. In America, people often talk about reinvention. A soldier returning from Iraq becomes a teacher. An athlete sidelined by injury steps into coaching. An office worker leaves safety to pursue a long-buried passion. They share one truth: change didn't strip them. It gave them a new identity. So the real question isn't, how do I keep everything the same? But who am I willing to become in this shift? If you live in America, you see the speed of change everywhere. Housing prices rise. Job markets swing. Social media invents new standards daily, making you feel left behind. In this storm, adaptability is the rarest asset. Skills can expire, but the spirit of learning never does. Psychology calls this the growth mindset. People with it don't see failure as an ending, but as data for adjustment. They live like explorers, redrawing their maps when they find new terrain. Stoicism said the same thing 2,000 years ago in different words. Don't fear change, see it as life itself. Think back to times you were forced into change. A breakup, a job loss, a sudden upheaval. In the moment you thought you couldn't survive it. But years later, you realize those seasons forged a new you, tougher, wiser, even kinder. That's proof change doesn't destroy you. Change grows you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The obstacles weren't there to block your growth, they were the material for it. Change isn't the enemy, it's the test. And evolution isn't just survival learning how to bend, endure, and remain truly free in a world where tomorrow can never be predicted. But constant change has a cost. It can leave you exhausted, directionless, feeling like you're always starting over. That's why once you understand evolution, you need something more profound, a system. Without it, you drift with the waves. With it, you keep your rhythm, no matter how the world shifts. And the key to that system is discipline. Self-discipline and systematizing growth. In modern American society, people often believe success comes from motivation. They wait for inspiration, high-energy days, and sparks of excitement to finally change their lives. But the harsh truth is, motivation never lasts long enough to build a sustainable life. One morning you might get up early for the gym, but 3 days later, the warmth of your bed pulls you back down. You decide to read one night, but Netflix and TikTok drag you back to the couch. Motivation comes and goes. The only thing that remains is discipline. Americans have a saying, discipline equals freedom. It sounds like a contradiction, but it's true. If you have the discipline to save, you gain financial freedom. If you have the discipline to care for your health, you gain the freedom to enjoy old age. If you have the discipline to control your emotions, you gain the freedom to live without being steered by others. Freedom doesn't fall from the sky, it's the direct result of discipline. Stoicism emphasizes that while life is not in control, your actions and habits always are. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Train yourself for what is necessary." He meant the systematization of discipline, turning it into part of your daily life until it's no longer a struggle but second nature. Look at an American soldier returning from service. In the military, there's no asking if you want to exercise or want to wake up early. The rigid schedule forces repetition until it becomes instinct. When discharged, many veterans still wake at 5 a.m., fold their blankets neatly, and train consistently. No one orders them anymore, but the discipline system has become part of who they are. And that is precisely what helps them adapt to civilian life and maintain stability in a chaotic world. The lesson is clear: if you rely only on willpower to make the right choice every day, you'll burn out quickly. Willpower is limited, but if you build systems, the hard decisions become automatic. Like a train set on rails, it just runs. Think of the typical American office worker. They rush to make coffee, open email, and dive into meetings each morning. Without a system, their whole day gets hijacked by other people's priorities. But set a straightforward rule: no checking email before 9 a.m., and suddenly they create a space to read, write, or think strategically. One system shift and life starts to change. Stoicism doesn't demand harsh self-punishment. It teaches you to choose what truly matters and repeat it until it becomes the foundation of your life. Seneca once said, "A happy life is in harmony with nature," and human nature is built on habits. You can't know you want peace while drinking yourself numb every night. You can't say you want clarity while scrolling social media for 5 hours daily. If you wish to change your life, you must change your habits. The problem is modern America is built to break discipline. Ads are designed to make you eat more and spend more. Social media is programmed to keep you scrolling endlessly. Streaming platforms drop entire seasons so you'll binge watch until 2 a.m. If you don't consciously create your own system of discipline, you will become a product of someone else's system. The simplest way to begin is to set a system over goal. Instead of saying, "I'll lose 20 pounds, say, "I'll go to the gym 3 times a week and stop eating after 9 p.m. Instead of saying, "I'll read 30 books this year," say, "I'll read 20 minutes every night before bed." Focus on the system and the results will come naturally. Take financial freedom as another example. Many Americans set a goal of saving $1 million. But that goal feels distant, discouraging. A disciplined person builds a system instead, automatically invests 20% of income each month, never touch the retirement account, and live below their means. After 10 to 20 years, they no longer chase the goal, the system delivers it for them. The key is that discipline must align with your core values. If not, it becomes a prison. Someone might wake at 4 a.m. to work out daily, but if the reason is to show off on Instagram, they'll burn out. If the reason is to stay strong and live longer for their kids, they'll persist for a lifetime. Stoicism reminds us the why behind your actions matters more than the action itself. In practice, building discipline is like training a muscle. Start small, increase, gradually repeat. You don't have to change your entire life overnight. Begin with one act, like writing down 3 lessons you learned each night before bed. After a month, it becomes a habit. After 6 months, you have a self-checking system that fuels daily growth. Once you've built a disciplined system, you'll discover something crucial: you no longer need motivation. You don't need to feel excited to do the right thing. You do it because it's who you are. That's when discipline stops being a burden and becomes liberation. When this journey ends, pause and reflect on what you've just walked through. From letting go of the illusion of comparison, breaking free from the addiction to instant gratification, facing the invisible weight of expectations, learning to live fully present, growing through change, building discipline, and systematizing your growth. None of these are lofty theories. They are bricks in the foundation, practical tools that ordinary Americans like you and me can apply daily in small, consistent choices. Remember this: Stoicism was never meant to be a dusty philosophy on a bookshelf. It is a way of living. It does not demand that you become emotionless, nor does it force you into rigid cages. It teaches you to see clearly what's within your control and what you must release. It shows that true freedom doesn't come from controlling everything, but from mastering yourself. In America today, exhaustion is everywhere. Office workers breaking under the pressure of KPIs, students scrambling to meet society's definition of success online, and young couples suffocating in the race of comparing houses, cars, or vacations with their peers. This fatigue is not because they are weak, but because they've never learned how to step out of the storm of expectations and comparisons. And this is where Stoicism steps in. It holds up a mirror asking, are you reacting from impulse today or acting from your actual values? It reminds you that your mind grows lighter every time you release an expectation. Every time you persist with a habit, your inner strength deepens. These small victories stacked together are the freedom you've been chasing all along. Most mental exhaustion in America today doesn't come from work, but from the disconnection between personal values and daily actions. When we live to please others and keep up appearances, we lose connection with ourselves. But when we return to Stoic principles, discipline, presence, letting go, patience, we rebuild the bridge between who we are and how we live. That bridge is the foundation of lasting strength. So what's the single most important message you should take away? That you don't need a brand new life. You need to stop running from the one you already have. Don't chase happiness in the applause of others. Please find it in simple moments, a quiet evening, an honest word, a habit repeated faithfully. Then you'll realize peace is not a destination, but how you walk daily. If there's one lesson to free yourself from pain, it is this: don't make yourself a victim of circumstance. You cannot control how others see you, but can always control how you respond. You cannot stretch deep, but live more deeply in each moment. You cannot escape every hardship, but you can turn hardship into fuel for growth. And if you feel drained, today remind yourself that you are not alone. Marcus Aurelius once wrote weary lines in his journal. Seneca admitted to his own weakness, but they left us wisdom to learn from because they dared to face it. You too can be fragile, but you can also choose to rise. Before we close, I invite you to take action right now. Try one small thing tonight before bed. Sit quietly for 3 minutes and ask yourself, what did I let outside of my control take space in my head today? That single question could spark a profound shift. If this video spoke to you, share it with a friend, a colleague, or someone you know struggling under pressure. You might be the bridge that helps them find peace again. And don't forget to subscribe to Sovereign Stoic to walk with us on this journey, because this is only the beginning. More profound, more practical lessons await you in the following videos. And finally, never forget, true freedom is not a life without problems, but a mind strong enough that no problem can break it. That strength from this moment forward is already in your hands.